So we will call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Present is Pamela Walsh, Brenda Hastings, and appointed temporarily to the Finance Committee Board President Jim Richards. And first item on our agenda is the fiscal year 24 budget meeting schedule.
So, in front of you, I believe, I handed out the proposed schedule of budget committee meetings. I also have it on the screen. So in this budget presentation, we put in the first meeting is to be February 8th, Wednesday. That'll be the opening presentation, and then we tried to hit some of the heavy hitter items the first couple meetings, and then let you have an open session on the 22nd, right before the break. That if there's anything that you see so far that you want to have more dialogue on or add in. And then when we come back from break on March 6th, we'd have a short half-hour meeting on technology because you have a monthly board meeting that night. And then on the 8th, we would go over transportation and food service, but that's the night you need to post a budget for public comment. And then we have another open session available for you after that. And then the high school enrollments and CRTC enrollments. And then proposing a 5:30 public hearing at central office and a 7 o'clock over at Millbrook.
Can we do something different than Millbrook? Not because I don't want us to go out, but because nobody comes to Millbrook. So is there a better way to engage than
I did think about
posting a hearing that no one comes to?
Right, yeah. I mean, I did think, I had Runlet there in central office, because I thought with Runlet, but then I'm thinking, okay, have the other side of the river, accessibility, and then access on this side of the river. That was why I did it. And Millbrook has the meeting room.
Right, I know.
That's the only reason I chose it on that side.
I mean, you could go to Beaver Meadow and we could be in the auditorium.
Yeah, could do that, if you'd prefer to do that.
Yeah, the Millbrook room is.
I don't know if it would get.
I don't know if
more
that would get
people.
any more people.
No. Could we use the community center, the city center that used to be Danesville?
We could call and ask.
Would that get us, I don't know if that would get us more people either,
I
but
don't know.
at least it's on that side, you know. I'm sure Beaver Meadow would allow.
We
us
could
to
do Beaver Meadow and the
Don't
community
know-
center if you
I
wanted
don't
that.
know if that would get us more. The other question I would ask on that one is, we do like them to be
Oh, yeah.
televised. So can they do remotes from all those locations or any of those
They
locations?
We
don't-
can't be live remote,
No.
no.
And they're not
Only
live
here.
remote at Millbrook,
Not
right?
in
No.
Millbrook.
Yeah.
So usually you have one live and then one recorded.
Right.
And I'll meet with Josh tomorrow. I can see if they've because they get annual grants through the through Comcast, and I don't know if they've upgraded to make themselves more mobile. But I'll ask them. I'm meeting with them at 1 tomorrow.
Oh, I'm not sure that any other location is more difficult than Millbrook. I think they're probably all just going to be he packs up all his stuff and moves it to wherever it is.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to have a controversy, you'll have the crowd. I mean, that's what brings people out. I hate to say that, but there's an issue that you have. I
Yeah.
mean, it's usually what people come out for, but, you know.
We can
the
fill it
budgets
if you
have
want us
been-
to. Is that what you want?
Say that again?
I said we can fill it if they
Oh,
want us
I
to.
just, wonder if there's a better way to engage
Or you
the
wonder-
community than.
We don't have
Are you
many-
thinking that because it's at a school, people that maybe don't have children in school think that it doesn't affect them?
No, I just.
I have to be honest, I've done public budget hearings as part of the process in other districts that I've worked in. I mean, we would have meetings of 15 or 20 minutes because we'd present it, there's no comment, and you'd be over. It doesn't, and in part, most of the districts I was in were SB2 towns, so they went and voted, which was always scary. But they didn't come to the public hearing or the deliberative sessions. And we would be finished in I'm telling you, in some nights, minutes. Because there were no questions, there were no concerns, and, no offense, but your budgets have been rather uneventful. How's that word?
Jack, Jack points out, as he pointed out, he's correct. In my experience here, we have filled the room when we said, if we were going to cut $1 million from this budget, what would it be? And they said, well, language,
Transportation.
transportation,
Athletics.
the athletics that'll pack the place if we're gonna do that. And so unless there's a driving question now, I personally think that so many of these questions are really important and key, but I guess not everybody else is.
Well, here's the other thing. We could post with this and you can change it. I mean, I know it's like giving people an advance, but they're going to be those 2 nights, just where it would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And depending on what opening night is, because as we said, the COVID funds are running out. So you might get what you are asking for. We're still, moving things around and trying to make it work, but you might be looking at some difficult decisions, which will cause.
Just a note, I asked Jack to put on where it says no board consensus. I put that on there because it's really important for us to hear where you're at after each session. I felt like the last couple of years, I never had a good handle on where the board was, where you were. Once you look at capital facilities and you say, that looks pretty good, there's nothing there that's gonna really cause a lot of heartburn, we'll have that sense of it, where you're at. Maybe after student services and curriculum, that one tends to be a little bit more discussion because of programming. But we'd like to get a sense of it, not a vote, but just a sense of where you're at, and make sure that we have good discussion. This is good, or maybe after and we'll keep a running tab. So let's say you're okay with the first 4 items. We'll have a running tab for you, and then you get to budget. And you might direct us back and say, look, can you go back and look at some things for us to re-look at and re-examine? I just felt like I wanted a little bit more give and take, if you will, in hearing from you.
Mhm.
Is that?
Yeah, I think we said things like that was something that we were looking at too, is a little bit more maybe input in how things go, so.
The only thing I would say is, with regards to getting us, if the night of the presentation is the first time we're seeing the item that is being presented, then it's a little more difficult for us to, at that time, see that. If you get it to us in advance, then
We talked about that today.
we can maybe read some of those things and be a little more prepared. Typically, the reason we're delayed is homework and say, okay, what about this? And then we come back later and say, what about going back to the meeting when you presented this? So the more you could give us up front, I think the easier we'll be able to give you feedback and pertinent questions that night.
Great point. Jack and I talked about that today, the importance of you having a chance to pre-read, and pre-review. Then you'd have explanation from us. And even still, you could still take it home and come back and say, hey, we gotta rethink this or whatever. But it would help us as we move through the budget, making sure that we know how you feel about each section.
And I think you'll get a certain extent, but I do think, I could love a section of the budget, because, I just love budgets, but then I get to the next section and I love that more, and then you got to make choices. So I think, well,
But if you love capital facilities and salary and benefits, and you fall in love with the programs for student services, you're right. But we will let you know how much you've already been impacted by those previous sections. That's what so that you can better, there's sort of an umbrella, or there's going to be parameters, a better word, around your budget, right? Because you can only ask the community for so much.
Right.
Is there?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
To help someone like me who sees these numbers and gets a little overwhelmed sometimes, and potentially 3 new board members, at least 2 coming on, would it be possible to say, like, February 13th, capital facilities and debt service, what did we budget last year for that? And what is being budgeted this year? And then we can look and see, okay, what's the difference? What,
Oh, yeah.
that would, and especially when we get down to like technology, because it seems to me like for the last several years, we've spent quite a lot on technology. So if we're gonna continue that, I guess it would be good to see, what did we spend on technology last year? What are we planning on spending this year? And what's the reason for that?
Yep. And what we'll do is in each of these presentations, you'll see at the beginning the dollar value and how much that is up over the current
The
year.
current, that would be
Yep.
great. Thank you.
But again, we're gonna make every effort to have it in your hands. At least look at it, cause you know, you will need explanation, we know that. And we're gonna have new folks, you know, we have new folks at the table.
Yeah.
Even in our office, now we spent, what, 4 hours today? Just walking through positions and, the ESSA positions versus the positions that are in the operation budget. What does that look like? Where can we make some trades? That kind of thing.
Are the subject headings still useful as a way, are these the topics that we want to focus on, I think, or recommend the board focus on, or do we want to look at it in any different other ways?
That's a good question, because I was gonna ask that. I was gonna ask the same question to Jack. I think these are the key drivers, categories, but is there any difference between things we asked for last year? Because we filled in some open sessions, I think, last year. So is there anything that we asked for that you presented last year on a topic that isn't in this group?
Transportation and food service. We didn't really elaborate on that last year.
Okay.
I haven't called it out and said, let's look at just the transportation budget and just food service. I may have said, we funded it, it's going up by this, and I left it because the food service fund is an independent federally fund that you have to prop up. Likely you won't have to prop it up for next year because they have a high fund balance, as I mentioned, in October. But at least you'll get to see what staff, meals, all that. We have not been that in-depth during the budget process with that. So that's new. And then obviously transportation, more in-depth.
Two things that I would ask to be included would be, one, a pretty clear explanation or presentation on the ESSER funds and what those items that we spent on and that it's going away.
That expire, yep.
And the second one was, in October, we modified the budget, and we asked that some of those positions and some of those things be brought back to our attention.
Yep.
I'd like some more, I want that clear amount of information as to, okay, this was the budget of March.
Yep.
This is the change, this is the budget in October. Because some of those things we put into, some of them we put into trusts, and we did hire
The DEIJ.
one position that I would like at least public to have an opportunity to comment on as we look at this budget.
Yep. And the second one we added was the CRTC because of
Right.
the increased revenue to support that program. Other than that, yeah. And they will come back to you because technically anything we usually add during the year is 1 year only automatically.
Yeah, okay.
And then
Good.
it has to be brought back again.
Good, I just want it to be.
Yep.
I know you're gonna bring it back again, but it's a very long budget, and I
Yes.
want them to be I want it to be in a little more bold type than just
Yep.
in with everything.
The food service is in there also, because you gotta remember, there were people that thought the district could provide breakfast and lunch. Remember, there was some discussion on the board about, and I think Jack was asked to put together a cost of what it would cost the district to provide that for families. And so we have done that. And that question may come up, so I wanted to make sure we had that on the list.
My memory, and it could be faulty, is that the opening presentation and the salaries, benefits, revenues, transfers, and fees is a little bit repetitive, and I wonder if we could consider sort of breaking it up so it's not quite curriculum, but look at it more like teachers, direct support personnel, curriculum, together, and then other student services, and maybe then the high school could go in with some of that for, I feel like that discussion, I remember being rushed. You know, that's where people wanted to spend more of their time on what we were, you know, what's going on in the schools and that.
The only thing we'll have with the high school, we have an enrollment report. It's going to the January, Brenda, you probably don't know this yet, or maybe Kim talked to you. We want to bring the enrollment report that we do annually for every position, where they are, every school. We decided we would bring that in January. It was closer to budget time, and it made more sense to do it then than to do it the first week in December, because then, you know, you lose sight of it. So we've moved that to January for your committee. But my problem, Pam, with pushing the numbers, enrollments for Concord High School,
Okay.
I'm not sure we'll have them.
You're not sure you have them.
You know, remember, the kids are signing up right after, I'm not sure when they're finished of all their sign-ups. March 15th gives us a little more time to make sure. And remember, the CRTC is going around to the 9 districts, meeting with every single school to find out what their numbers are.
And
I mean,
then
we can give you the numbers right now.
Yeah.
But we can't give you the anticipated numbers for the 23.
They also have the town meetings where they vote on their budgets too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's usually
commitment.
done by, they're always the first week in March.
So,
Yeah, for the most part. There's a few districts that hang on into the spring, but most districts are done by March.
Yeah, I've got a note here that says, from last year, salary and benefits were 77% of the budget, and that was up 5%. So, is that what you were talking about, sort of
Well,
breaking that?
I guess I was thinking about looking at it more in the buckets of services as opposed to as in one big group. So
So you're saying that if we discuss student services, then you would like to see us also discuss the personnel that would fall under student services. Is that what you're saying? And then same with curriculum. Curriculum would include classroom teachers, would include folks like that. Is that, are you trying to tie those two things together?
I was a little bit, but
Well, I was just gonna say.
I'm
but-
sorry, I didn't
No, that's okay.
interrupt you.
I was waiting for the chairperson to recognize me. I understand what Ms. Walsh is saying, because student services and those specialized contracts and everything associated is a
Programs.
big topic that often has a lot of questions and input. And we spend it's a third of the budget, pretty much, if I remember correctly, roughly that. And you know, we just have, when we put that in and then we go into curriculum and all, it makes for a very jam-packed amount of data coming at us in that one thing, as opposed to maybe some of our other sessions, which are a little less intense. And I think, you know, maybe we couple them different, or maybe we separate them out into one of the open sessions.
and I don't want to
see
take
that.
away, because I know we tend to go into those opening sessions, but I think, I mean, my memory of previous years is we get a pretty good overview of the salaries and benefits, which are the big drivers, during the opening presentation. And if we have an opportunity to go back to those things in student services and curriculum and transportation and technology,
Yeah, especially since those items are, and especially this, in coming years, those are contractually set.
we don't have a lot of control
We
over
can't
them.
really say, well, you know what, we're gonna cut healthcare by by 20% or 0.5% or.
Unless they've
5%.
come in today with a magic solution.
I mean, we really don't have a lot of flexibility, because we've negotiated that in a contract, and, all of those individuals are entitled
Yep.
to those benefits. And so there's, you know, to Ms. Walsh's point, is there's not a lot that we get into and say, okay, pick this supplier, this, you know, and move money from here to here. It pretty much is what it is, unless you see something different coming up this year.
oh, usually it comes down to whether you reduce staff or don't hire. That's really, it's people.
It is people, and that's where we get into the curriculum and the
Right.
other things, so
You-
maybe it goes
So-
together.
You have to understand the difficulties this is, because it is driven by the personnel.
Oh, I know.
And 77 maybe even be a little light. It might even be more than that. And
I think we do understand the difficulties, and I think that's why we want to, like,
but how do you control a budget that's 80% have increases and be cognizant of taxpayers?
I don't think anyone has said either of those things. I think what we're saying is we want to look into at the budget and the buckets based on the services we provide, because I think that is actually a better way of presenting it to taxpayers. Not it's 80% personnel, so we can't do anything, but like, these are the choices.
Mm-hmm.
We want language arts, we want foreign language, we really want to talk about foreign language.
Talk about adding a few languages.
Or a few years.
So why don't I do this? Why don't I take the current budget that you've approved,
Yeah.
and do a variety of different reports. It won't have a benchmark of comparison yet because we're still building it. But if you say, yeah, I'd like to see, okay, I see the 23, I want to see the 20, I want to see that difference and what makes that up. I can do some
I
various
think
things
that makes
ahead
sense.
of time.
That, and when we talk about, others may disagree with me, so this is just I would take session 3 and put most of that in the opening presentation, which you do anyway, because it's the major drivers of the budget, so we talk about those things. Capital facilities, and then break up student services and curriculum into sessions 3 and 4. And then maybe in one of those, we also have a discussion about the grant-funded positions that are expiring as part of the presentation.
The opening presentation, or within all these presentations?
Within student services and curriculum,
Gotcha.
probably primarily, but also we probably need it in other places as well, I imagine.
Work session 3 might be student services, and work session 4 might be curriculum and grant-funded positions.
Yeah.
And then if we include the salaries, benefits, revenues up in the opening presentation, if there are questions that we didn't get answered and things we can come in, maybe that's a topic we refer to an open session for.
So
I think that works.
we'll readjust this around and bring it to the December 5th, so this way you can have the
I'll put this
meeting
in
at your
there.
board to make sure, so we can get this posted in ample time, so.
The one,
I'll post it in the packet that we'll have for you Friday.
the one other thing that we're probably missing, and maybe it can be done on the night of transportation and food service, is administration. You know, central office.
All administration? You want to do principals? Or
No, I
does
mean,
this
the central office.
SAU.
Yeah, SAU, yeah. So SAU, transportation and food service. Does that make sense? Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Yep.
Can I ask a question as, with regards to the public hearings? Do we feel that 5:30 and 7 are the right times? I mean, we try to get as many people as we can. Is 7 too late? Is 5:30 too early? Are they just right? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just throwing it out there as to what anybody else may think or what everybody else may have heard or feedback.
I've not heard anything. I would tend to think 7:30 is a little late to start, but
7,
7 is the
7.
yeah.
I might try 6.
Yeah, just do them all, yeah.
Do them both at 6?
6.
And the only reason I didn't do 5:30 at Millbrook was because after-school programs. I didn't want to impact, so. But I think 6 would be okay. We might be a little delayed starting, and I have to look at the setup, but we can make it work.
I think they're pretty much done. They're mostly in the cafeteria.
I think so, over
Yeah.
Broken Ground or at, Millbrook.
Yeah.
But
I'm
either
concerned
way.
that 7 is for parents who have younger children, or some of the other people in the community. 7 maybe just a little late. If we want to get people, if we want to maximize their input, I think 6 is a good time.
Okay. We did 6 o'clock at the community center last week and a week before last. And that was a good crowd.
Seems fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks good. Great, thank you.
Okay.
You're good with that then, huh?
All right.
Okay, thank
Next,
you.
this is a follow-up to the October 17th Finance Committee meeting where we had Christy Karpowicz come and give you an overview of our healthcare. the second largest item in your budget. So tonight, we're coming back to that to do a deeper analysis into the Cigna report, which is posted in your folder. That's the 20-some page analysis that Cigna has done on our plan, or on our group of plans. And then also, I handed out to you the questions you had that night. They're answered in red, but they have a presentation they'll do for you and be able to ask more questions, because, yeah, this stuff isn't light reading. So, and it's the second largest item in your budget. So I will jump over to the presentation, if that's easier for you. And so we have Christy Karpwich from Barstow, and we have Chris Glenn from School Care. And they tag team this presentation.
All right, take it away
Yeah, just make sure the mic's close, so.
so that you can hear us.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is definitely a deeper dive into your specific claim. So when we were here the last time, we didn't have this report yet. We were talking about macro trends that we were seeing in the industry, and you know, basically the message was you are not alone. And then you had said, well, could you come back and do a deeper dive into what our specific trends are? And you had some specific areas that you were asking for. And so that's what this is in response to. So Jack, oh yeah, you were good.
Yep,
Okay.
there.
So, okay, so we are going to tag team this. So Chris is going to kind of hop in. The first slide is comparing, so just some technicalities. So PMPY is per member per year, and we have current, so that's the most recent 12 months. So that's claims between July 2021 and June 2022. That's your plan year. And then base period would be the prior year. And when it compares to NORM, NORM is the Cigna Book of Business for schools, municipalities, and universities nationally. So we're trying to get a subsegment of Cigna that is relevant to Concord School District. So this is this really is why you got the increase you did in your medical benefits for the upcoming year. So your plan spend, so that'd be medical and RX, is up 11.6% on a member basis, and you can see that that's 14.8% more than norm. Okay, so this was a challenging year, and that's what we're going to go through why. And what are the drivers of that? The employer paid portion was up 11.9%, which is 20.6% higher than norm. And we all know that you have a very generous benefit plan, right? So 20.6% more generous than the Cigna Book of Business. And the member paid portion only went up 4.7%, and that's 44.7% lower than norm. So again, it's a rich plan. The district absorbs most of the cost, and members are somewhat protected even in a high cost claim year. And then below that, it breaks it into medical and then pharmacy. So medical per member per year. So the medical was up 11.5. Employer paid portion was up 11.8. Pharmacy was up 11.9. Employer paid portion was up 12.6. So there really wasn't that much of a difference in the increase between medical and RX. Sometimes we see big discrepancies. Mm-hmm. So any questions on that overview? All right, you can go to the next one. All right, so lots of numbers here, but basically there's some good news. So if we look at the right hand, the population, health, and pharmacy. So again, base was 2 years ago. Current is the most recent year. Then the trend is kind of the delta between those two, and then compared to norm. And so you're better than norm in a ton of places. So like the chronic percent of population. So the most recent year, 41.2% of your population had a chronic illness. The norm is 48, so you're better. The chronic percent of cost in the most recent year is 72%. Norm is 76.5. You're better. Total health engagement. So how many people participate in the various programs that Cigna offers? So it declined from 61% to 47.9, but the norm is 41.4, so you're still better than the norm. And this is something that we definitely have seen across the board, is that a lot of the engagement declined during the COVID timeframe. I mean, it just was such a disruptive time, so people weren't, communicating or getting services that they would normally get, and we're hoping that we're going to see all that rebound because you're typically, highly engaged. Your preventive visits are great. So like 70.6% 2 years ago, 70.2 the most recent year versus a norm of 61.3. So that's good news. Your well visits are great. 61.7 2 years ago, 59.2 the most recent year. Norm is 47.8. So that's all good. Your health assessment completions are through the roof. 58.3 2 years ago, 53.9 most recently. The norm is 8.9. Now, part of that is because you have to take the health assessment to get the HRA dollars, and so that certainly drives participation. But there's a reason that it exists, and there's a purpose for it, and you end up with a ton of participation.
And if I could just say one thing about that, the reason that it's in the 50s is because that takes into the spouses as well that are eligible. Only the employees have to complete the health assessment to get the HRA funds. So don't take that as, only 50% of
staff.
people are getting it. Most people are getting it. It's just they take all members into account.
So in that yellow plan, it's $1,000 for single, $2,000 for two-person family.
No, it's all good.
So, just so you know what the numbers are as it relates to this HRA plan.
So this isn't all doom and gloom. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are getting preventive care. There's a lot of people that are getting wellness. There's a lot of people that are engaging with the programs that Cigna has. We're going to see some of the drivers, and a lot of it are high-cost claims and high-cost specialty pharmacy. And we're seeing this with so many groups. So this isn't, again, you're not alone. There's a lot of very high-cost claims out there. But the fundamentals, we always like to look at, like, how's the underlying plan running? Like, how is the general population healthy? And then is that different than what we're seeing driven by the high-cost claims? And I when I look at this, I think, like, there's a lot of good that's happening that is still in the plan. So that bodes well for the future. And then the bottom portion is pharmacy. And you can see, like, your generics are great. You have 93.3% of the population taking generics compared to a norm of 92. And really the only standout in the pharmacy that's significant and really not great at all is the specialty plan per member per year on the medical side. And you can see that that's what's up 64.8%, right? So, and it's really high. And so that's driven by the specialty meds that some of the high-cost claimants are taking. And this is, again, a new pattern that we're seeing. And I was talking to Chris, and I'm like, this is the biggest driver that we're seeing in claims are people that take specialty meds that are treating conditions that didn't used to be treatable. And so they're doing really well, or significantly better than if they weren't taking the med. But the med is super expensive, and they can be $300,000 a year or $1 million a year. I mean, that's what we're seeing now. And so this is becoming one of the biggest drivers of high cost claims. And you can see in your claims that that's what's driving yours as well. And then if we look at in the blue box, just a couple things to point out. So the demographic factor, so that takes into account all of it's like the age sex factor, like all the members on your plan, how old they are, what genders they are. And then it just figures out like a statistical risk factor. And so if you use 1 as the average risk, the norm is 1.06 and you're at 0.94. So like statistically, you should perform a little better than norm if it was a normal year. Okay. And then the only other thing to point out in the blue box is that the overall plan costs were up 10.5%, but when you look at it on a per member basis, it's like 11.5%, and that's because you had a decline in membership, right? So we're dividing the amount by fewer members. You went from not a huge decline, but 1,394 to 1,381 average members. So that's why there's a little discrepancy there. And then at the bottom, the key performance indicators, and again, catastrophic claimants in excess of just catastrophic claims and catastrophic spend per member per year are the biggest drivers of your increase.
Can I ask a question about the specialty plan spend? Mm-hmm. You have RX only and med only. Is that the cost of administering? The med only, the cost of
No, it's
administering,
the-
or is something different?
It's the RX that's it's usually infusion therapy, and it can be due to cancer. It can be, I mean, there's all sorts of meds that are now delivered in a hospital setting through infusion, and they're billed on the medical side,
Okay.
not as the prescription drug.
So if you think about it, RX is a pill, so people are taking pills, or they could be administering a shot themselves.
Okay.
The medical side is someone else is doing it for them because it's a bigger process. And we're seeing a shift in that in all of our groups. And it's actually, if you look at it, it's lower cost compared to the pill side, compared to the RX side. But we're seeing a huge shifts in biologic medications, which are infusions, and they are you're gonna see that rise every year. It's across the nation, you know. But like Kiersey said, it's better for people. They're seeing better results. They're actually living, you know, more productive lives because they weren't being able to be treated the way that they are now.
So like things like maybe like a muscular dystrophy claim, like that, a lot of times you'll see there. A lot of the cancer infusion therapies are super common now with cancers. You'll see it there. So it won't actually, if you're looking at like med and RX, it's in the med side, but it's really a drug.
So like when you say
But
cancer.
does that include is it the drug
It's
cost
everything.
alone?
The drug cost, the facility charge, the delivery
Okay,
fee. It's
yeah.
everything. And one of the trends is, can people receive it at home, right? So there's definitely trends to try to see whether infusion therapy or, you know, like that it could be delivered in a home setting, and that could be much less expensive than a hospital setting. So that's a lot of time that's where like a Cigna case manager will evaluate whether or not it's an appropriate to be delivering it at home or not.
Yep.
And so they try to move it home,
Okay.
but it's not always possible.
Okay.
So when you say cancer, like if somebody has a port, they go, they get service, and then they're around for a couple weeks with
Yep.
that port, that would be under med versus RX?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not gonna
Because
be
they're
billed to
sitting
the
in a
RX.
facility with that, getting their medication.
And then
They have to
leaving.
sit there for 3 or 4 hours.
Yep.
That's all part of that fee.
Yeah. All right, so
Okay.
the next one. So this is always an interesting
Yes.
slide, I think. So is it your employees, or is it spouses, is it dependents? Who are the drivers of the costs? And so the way that it works is on the left, the top is all your claims gross, and then the bottom is we take out the catastrophic claims, so the claims over 50,000. And so if you look at the top, you can see that it's spouses who are driving most of the costs. And so what that tells us is that you've got some high cost claimants that are spouses, okay? Because if we go down to the bottom, then the spouses fall below employee and kind of fall more in line. And so that is not also an uncommon pattern, especially, you know, I work with so many municipalities and schools, and so people work here for the benefits, and all of the family members come on the plan, and therefore you end up with high cost claims that are the spouses. When you work in the private sector, a lot of the spouses go on their own plan, or, you know, so it's not the case. But when you are a school and you have really rich benefits, which we saw in the first slide, right? Like the employer's paying a majority portion, the benefits are great, the spouses will come onto your plan, and then you will have the spousal high cost claims as well. So that is one of the bigger drivers.
Do we have, currently, if you're working and your spouse has a plan and they use their plan, can they use this plan as a backup to cover,
So
so that they wouldn't be using it as a primary, they'd maybe using it as a backup?
do you want to talk to that?
You could. It's absolutely possible. It's kind of null It's
There's so little that would
there's
be
so little
paid.
benefit to
Yeah.
having dual medical.
Okay.
The only benefit plans that it really comes into play is like dental.
I see it on dental all the time. Like
Okay.
I have
schools-
double dental myself.
Yeah, all the people whose teachers, or if they work in two
My
districts,
wife's a
they
teacher.
take both. Yeah,
Okay.
but on the medical, like there's so little left. Like
And with
from a
with this
standpoint.
plan, with the yellow choice fund plan being the driver, a lot of people see their maximum out of pocket on a family is 2,000.
Right,
Why
it's
am
1,000
I
on an individual.
gonna,
Right?
and why am I gonna risk having maybe more out of pocket on a secondary plan?
You're gonna pay the premium over there, which may cost more than 1,000 that you're gonna be. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
No, I just didn't know if we could encourage people that have spouses to maybe use their plan
Sure.
and then use ours as a backup, so we didn't have such a high spouse.
And that would come into play. You got it correct. So the spouse would be primary on their plan, secondary to this plan,
Right.
and then the employee would only be primary here.
So there's a whole bunch of this. Schools are not doing it. Municipalities are not doing this. But if you get yourself out of that world, there's levels of this. It's called a spousal carve out. So like Hitchcock does it. So if your spouse has access to large group medical insurance, because per the Affordable Care Act, if it's a large group plan, it has to be have essential health benefits and be affordable for the single. So the spouse is going to be just fine on their plan.
Right.
So then they have to take it. So that there's like the full carve out where they literally have to take it. You could do a surcharge where people will charge more if they want to stay on your plan. So there's all these different levels, but we don't see that in public plans. Typically, people work here because of the benefits, or it's bargained, or whatever, and so it just isn't. It isn't really in the public sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just didn't know if that was
but
a way
I
we
but
could
if but I'll
maybe-
tell you what,
Sure.
Well,
private
it's a
employers
possibility.
are
You
doing
just
it
gotta
all day
do
long.
it.
So
Right.
like that's expensive, right? And
Right.
if they have access to, yeah.
But then all those people come here. Like if they have spouses in public, it's just.
That is a very good point.
Yep.
That you will end up with way more here. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a future discussion we'll have to have in negotiations as it relates to this.
All right, next slide. So this one is just kind of a lot of these will start getting repetitive, but so the plan spend for the total plan on a per member per month basis increased 11.6%. The employer side increased 11.9%. The member side, so what your members paid, increased 4.7%. Catastrophic claims are definitely the biggest driver at 6.5% of the total 11.6. And yeah, and then the trend line is just how much each of those contributed to the overall trend. All right. And then this one, I like this slide a lot because this talks about the high cost claims. And so sometimes you see that it's a ton of high cost claims. And sometimes you see it's one giant high cost claim. But sometimes you have the year when you have more and higher, and that's what you had. So this was like, that's why it's the perfect storm year, right? So you can see that middle blue bar, you had more claims on the top, and then the average cost was also higher this year on the bottom. And so that can create a really challenging situation, which is what you encountered this year. So, the.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Maybe just a comment from you. Isn't a lot of it driven by the industry? I mean, the costs have risen significantly around procedures,
Yes.
and that normally,
By far.
I saw significant increases
Yes.
in procedures that were really surprising. So I know it shows that there are a lot more, but I'm suggesting to you that it was driven by the costs associated with the charges from the industry,
Yeah, although you still are higher than norm.
because we had more of them. Is that what you're saying?
No.
You had more of them than the norm anyway, but you also had higher costs.
The ones
per
you had
claim.
also were higher cost than the norm. So But what you're saying does have a lot of truth. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why, like, I think that's why I came the first time, even though we didn't have this yet, just to say, this is what we're seeing. Like, this is across the industry what we're seeing. And, you know, I'll have, because I'm on the advisory boards for the different health plans in the state. And so, you know, they'll say, you know, the hospitals are coming to them and saying, we're up double digits. We got travel nurses, we got supply chain issues, our costs are through the roof. We need to pass them along, right? And then they say to me, what'll happen? I'm like, look, our groups are like, everybody's buckling, like they can't absorb it. Like we can only pass so much along. So it's kind of this, it's a very challenging environment right now. The costs are really high. So it is definitely part of that. But I will say that not all, I mean, you know, I think one of the other things I was showing the last time I was here was, like, we started in 2016 and we were showing your trends. And, you know, each year it was building, right? You had more high cost claims and more and more and more. So I feel like we've kind of been on a little bit of a trajectory of increased claims. So.
The other point I'll make, to your point, Kathleen, is a lot of hospitals in the state are combining. So they have more power to charge more money. And that's going across New England. I mean, we're seeing Massachusetts on the seacoast. They're, you know, hooking up with Portsmouth Hospital, a couple other ones. And that's actually increasing costs as well. The industry overall is increasing, but now when you have these mini monopolies around the state that are joining forces, they can charge because now you have to go to them. Now there's nowhere else to go. So
It's hard when you're in a rural state.
yeah,
You know, there's less competition, and it's just, you know, New Hampshire is a very high cost state for, I mean, New England's high, and then New Hampshire and Maine are really high because it's rural and challenging.
When you say catastrophic claims, that's based on cost?
Yeah, claims over 50,000. So
50,000,
right at the
okay.
bottom, catastrophic claimant threshold
Okay.
was
I
50,000.
just wanted to make sure we weren't talking about,
Anything over 50, just there's
Okay.
like, it's kind of a standard that's used
Yep.
for when looking at medical claims, so yeah.
okay, thank
That's
you.
a claim for the same thing. They go in, say it's a heart attack, and they're treating the heart.
Right.
That's one claim. If cancer, that'd be a separate claim.
Well, actually, what they
Okay.
do is they lump it all under the highest category for the person.
Yep.
So sometimes there's a lot of comorbidities, but it'll be whatever the primary driver of that claim is, and they'll lump it there.
and that's what it goes under, yeah.
Yeah.
And then how much of this is, when Kathleen said that the industry, how much of it is plan, design, and legislation?
Well, legislation definitely falls. That's really
Has an
interesting.
effect.
It definitely does. Like the autism mandate, there's a lot of autism claims now. I mean,
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll
We'll
have
have a
it.
little more
You have a
detail.
big
Yeah.
autism as a driver, but that's when they passed bariatric surgery. This was a while ago. This was probably 10 years ago or so. I had a private school, and it's almost like one person had it, and then another person, and another, and those were super high claims. And it was, so they actually used that as a case study with the state to say, like, this is the impact legislation can have. Like, it does have an impact. And so, you know,
Would
yeah.
those wouldn't apply to us? Aren't we an ERISA regulated plan?
So, well, you,
We're actually not.
you're not ERISA because you're public, but you cover everything.
I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't cover
No, I
autism.
know.
I'm just curious.
You
So it's
are
in
an
a s-
ERISA plan, but you actually would cover what the state mandates, and then probably more.
We actually have
like when you
more.
went to infertility, like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
more generous. So, you know, I think this.
But is that a legislative requirement or a choice?
That was, so I'll say infertility specifically was a choice.
Okay.
It's always a choice, but I feel like the minute that it becomes a state mandate, then
Oh,
it's
you
like,
have to keep up with it.
You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Not cover it? And
Yeah,
everybody
I
else
just
covers it?
I'm just curious.
Are you not going to cover autism when you're a public school? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
I guess legislation is a drive, an
it-
impetus to
Yeah,
drive,
Correct.
and I could see that.
And just,
it definitely goes lockstep.
and to answer your question, Jack, about plan design, I think where you could see plan design change on your overall claims is employee paid claims. So that like negative 44%, you know, over the norm, that would go much more to zero. So, because they would take on more of the cost. You know,
Higher deductible.
higher deductible, they don't have the HRA fund, and we have the.
And we've already
plans.
started that with a couple
Cor-
groups as it
correct.
relates to the HSA.
Exactly.
And that's,
And that could help.
4,000, 8,000 versus 2,000, 4,000.
Exactly, yep.
All right, so go to the next slide. So these are the primary drivers, the categories that are driving the claims. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Sure.
To talk through that.
So, as you can see, musculoskeletal is the top driver. It increased slightly from the previous 12 months to the last 12 months, but this is the number one driver for school care overall as a group. 18% of our overall claims are musculoskeletal.
And what would that be?
That can be neck, back, shoulder,
a
hip,
knee,
knee.
Okay, yeah.
It's a big, broad portion.
So like a knee replacement? Like,
correct.
so
Hip
some of the
replacements.
things that were put off during the pandemic?
Exactly.
Okay.
But I will say we saw it before COVID. It was a cost driver for school care overall. Because, if you got to get an MRI to check your back, even if you don't have a major problem, MRI costs pretty significant cost. So one of the things that we did for school care groups is we put in a program called Hinge Health. And Hinge Health is a musculoskeletal program that people can do at their house. They can do it at school. They can do it on the road. And it's no cost to the employees to use. It doesn't go against deductibles, their HRA, anything. It's fully paid by the plan. However, it's to deter larger claim items. It's to deter not going to surgery, getting a back surgery or a knee surgery or something like that. So we're trying to mitigate the costs before they get to the larger items. It's free to sign up for anyone that's over 18. So this is available for employees, spouses, or even dependents. So if I actually use the program myself just to test it out, and you get hooked up with the app on your phone or tablet. You get hooked up with a physical therapist. They do an evaluation of you. They make you stand up, do all these exercises, and they say, okay, you got pain here. Let's focus on here. They give you kind of daily exercises. They hook you up also with a health coach. I'm overweight, so they were giving me, details on how to lower my weight, how to eat better, how to, take care of myself. And overall, it's supposed to mitigate the cost that they could incur under the plan. It's not it's not going to help everyone, but if you put in the time and you put in the effort, it will change things. It changed my back. I had lower back problems.
People were standing up at the school care meeting giving testimonials about it.
Correct.
They were like,
Yeah.
I was like, and then I did Hinge Health and I did all these remote PTs and now I can,
It's really
do
good.
whatever.
And
So it's cool.
we put it in last November, and I put together some numbers that we've had. So since November 2021, we've had 526 people in our chronic program, and the chronic's the highest program that you can really go into. You actually get sensors sent to you. I have a chest sensor and a hip sensor, and it tells me if I'm doing the exercises correctly or if I'm outside, maybe I'm pushing myself too hard, whatnot. So that is the most engagement. The chronic issues included from top to bottom. Back was 37% of people, neck 21%, knee 18%, hip was 15%, and shoulder was 9%. So all of those are kind of the big portions of what people are going for. And again, no cost to the employees. It's a 365-day program, so they can participate, and they give you daily exercises if you want them, or you can only do it a couple days a week. It depends on your schedule, because they try to meet you where you are. But it was a really, we have seen an increase, and we're doing these communication platforms. We're sending out flyers. We're sending out email campaigns. Hinge Health actually helps us with their marketing team to get more engagement. So employees should be seeing this as long as they're connected with us on email and SMS texting, stuff like that. But we can only do so much. They have to take the leaf and run with it.
So my question would be, how many of our employees are in Hinge Health?
I do not have that level of detail because there's only approximately 600 people in the program. They don't give us names just because of HIPAA. We are
But
limited.
I was just wondering if we were like 0 or 5 or
I-
7.
I could only get the broad number of the school care group as a whole, unfortunately.
And that's all the schools, not just Concord.
That's all of our member groups that we serve, which is approximately 95 groups around the state.
So you don't think they'd give you that? I mean, I know they tell for us, yeah, they just tell us all the members. They don't tell names and everything. It just says we know how many members.
Right.
So if we said how many are in that, no, they don't give you that, huh?
If it was only 5, and then you guys heard who the 5 people were,
Yeah.
that could get out as a HIPAA violation.
Okay.
I can definitely ask, but they kind of give us the broad as much as possible.
Yeah. So it really makes it a little difficult for us to spend money to get people to sign up for this when we really have no idea.
So,
It doesn't cost anything.
so it doesn't,
If we encourage employees to sign up for it, it does cost us, because we've got to, do you guys send out things to each and every employee on a daily basis, a weekly basis?
So-
I wouldn't say
Is that all free?
I mean, it's-
Because if we try to, if we put posters or we do anything, or we encourage people to take part of this very good program, that's gonna cost us money.
So you don't have to do it, so school
you-
care
so
reaches
you
out, as
got it.
long as somebody's on the school care plan and they've opted to be communicated to, like through texting or email, then
there's nothing
school care is
you guys
doing
don't
it.
even know we're
It's
doing it.
happening behind the scenes right now, it's
Yeah.
already happening to any member that has engaged with school care.
Correct.
So do we do anything to promote engagement with school care?
I mean,
See,
you-
Well,
I'm just concerned that.
You have to get the
You have to.
2000.
HRA money.
So they
You
have
have
to
to,
do that,
right.
so, okay, so they're getting that information, good, I just wanna make sure that it's getting in front of people's eyes.
I mean, I get
Because I think
emails,
it's
I
really
get
good.
emails from school care about all the programs that they have.
And
I
as a
can opt in,
retiree, I
yeah.
still get them too.
We-
Do you
Yeah,
still
so
get them?
Good,
I will say, we try to do as many communications as we can without overloading people, right? We're not sending
you don't
out a
kill
weekly
them, yeah.
email. We're sending out probably 2 emails and 1 text a month. Like, that's probably the majority. And we're not doing just Hinge. We're doing Hinge. We're doing our Good For You Wellbeing program. Another thing, and the second line is neoplasms, which is cancer. That's a board recommendation that they're looking at different programs to offset costs in the cancer area, just like they did for musculoskeletal, because it is our number 2 driver for school care as well. So we're looking at programs to do that, and we will be notifying members and anyone that is a part of school care. We try to get out as much information as possible.
good, cause I mean.
I understand what you're
these preventative-
saying.
These preventative items are really great if we can get people to just look at them and read.
It's
them
the
by
engagement. It's getting them to
Right,
engage.
To read that
Yep.
and say, you know what, doesn't seem like it'd be really killer for me to do this, and it probably would help me out. And once you get them involved, and they start feeling better, feeling more flexibility and your range of motion and.
Right, maybe you
Then-
avert a fall or
Yeah,
something,
maybe we-
yeah.
It makes me wonder a little bit, could we be doing more for preventative, I'm looking at the number 1 thing being
Musculoskeletal.
Musculoskeletal.
I know it's hard.
That's teachers stand all day, most of the day. And could we be doing something? Is there a padding we could put under the rugs that would maybe make the wear and tear? Or is it not, are the issues not caused maybe by that? There's lots of reasons people would have these issues, but could we encourage things to be done to avoid them in the beginning?
I think what you're referencing is ergonomics.
Ergonomic stuff, yeah.
And that gets into a whole different ballgame outside of the health plan.
Okay, so that's not something you guys would care?
Something we do with Primex.
Your
We
PNC,
do that now.
Right,
your
I was gonna
PNC,
say.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, something to think about maybe.
But it's definitely, I mean, it's a question I've had before, definitely.
I will tell you this, when we did the 3 elementary schools, the reason we went with the rubberized flooring was for exactly that. One of the reasons, it was easier to clean, but also we knew with staff that would stand, it was easier on their backs and on their ligaments because you weren't having concrete with vinyl over top of it.
Yeah.
But
Or
Wonder if
Just
you
remember
noticed
that.
any
concrete with
difference?
rug.
I know, I just know that they told us that soft.
That was one of the reasons.
But that was one of the reasons.
But
when
that would
we
be,
came in.
and I don't know if there's any way to compare that, but like,
Yeah.
as we think about hopefully building a new middle school,
Yeah.
like knowing if that made a difference
Yep.
in terms of health outcomes for staff
Yeah.
would make would help us decide whether that's where we should go.
Yeah. And
In the
how
future.
you go about it. I mean, it's just really asking staff that they feel better there, but if that's all they know versus if they came from another school,
And you've
it's
got
more of an
schools,
ask.
you've got two elementary, a high school that don't have the
Correct.
software
Yeah.
currently, so.
Okay.
But is that something, not to give us the data, but is that something school care could compare for us, whether we have better outcomes based on these different programs
By school.
by school?
That would be tough, again, because of HIPAA, because we'd
Yeah.
have to know who's at each school.
But you could have that information. We're not asking you to give us who's at each, the list of who's
I
at
don't think
school,
you feed it
just
to
whether
Cigna
there's.
by
No,
school,
we,
though, that's the
so we
thing.
feed the group.
Right,
Yeah.
And,
okay.
and we feed you guys with every other person. You know, we have approximately 20,000
Yep.
plus people on the plan. So it's like, to dig, I can dig into the claims because you guys have over 100 people.
Yep.
So then the anonymity kind of is spread.
Yep.
But to get, like you were asking, the detail on Hinge, when you get to a smaller number, it's really hard to pick it apart.
Well, you don't even feed the claims by school at a Cigna, so Cigna wouldn't know
Yeah.
who is at this school or that.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Exactly.
It's not coded
It's Concord
that way.
School District
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would guess if you had generic, even overall data that says schools that have, you know, this particular, you know, that have concrete floors or whatever, have this many claims, schools who have.
I'm
done
sure
this
the
thing,
rubber
this many
flooring
claims,
people would have that data.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
We can talk with the architect.
I actually, yeah, I bet they run their own report.
Non-smokers, smokers cost $1,500 a year more.
And
than
that's why they
non-smokers.
charge a surcharge now.
And they do.
A lot
We
of
don't,
insurance companies.
But a lot of, that was one of the, they didn't charge a surcharge, they didn't think that was fair, they just gave non-smokers money back.
So either way, right? And I remember
So-
a company
But
that
they
I
have-
used to work
They
for.
can quantify the fact that, you know what, this particular item is more costly. And so I think what Pam's statement is, you know, if you have a school that is all, you know,
Rubber floor.
one level, rubber flooring, whatever, you know,
But even going back to the
Pretty
Hinge
good.
Health, having a number of employees who participate when we go into negotiations in the future, if our employees are participating in these programs, that puts us in one position. If they're not, then that's a subject, I think. X% of our employees are participating in these programs. So.
Good, good on
Okay.
that
I think yeah.
one. Okay. Next. The next two slides are just, these were in the last presentation, but I guess I wanted to tie what your claims were, from a loss ratio standpoint, to what we're looking at here. So basically, the loss ratio takes all your claims for the year and it divides the claims by the premium that's paid, okay? And so your loss ratio for the 12-month period that we're looking at these claims here was 104%, meaning every dollar that you sent to Cigna, they paid out $1.04 in claims, okay? So clearly that's not good. Claims that are over, so that means they don't use those to factor your renewal. But the 104% compared to the prior year was 96.67. Our goal is 92. Like that's where we'd love to have you. In the most recent, where it was 104, you had 8 large claimants over 150,000, totaling 2.5 million. The prior year, where it was 96.67, you had 7 high-cost claimants totaling 1.7 million. So you can see, like, just the higher loss ratio and the higher catastrophic claims in the most recent period. And then the next, this is just how they list your high-cost claims. So a lot of these ones that we're seeing, like there's the $714,000 one, there's a $425,000 one, there's a $355,000 one, there's a few at $200,000+. So, when we're talking about some of the specialty drugs that are going through med, or the neoplasms, or whatever, those are going to be these high cost claims, even though we're not showing you here what they are. And you can
What's
see the
EE?
spouses. Look at the spouses. The relationship there. SP is spouse. So we got spouse, spouse,
okay.
spouse, spouse, spouse. Driving a lot of those claims. Like the $714,000 one is a spouse.
Well, and that goes
Yeah.
back to the discussion you had earlier about private and how they try to encourage
Yeah.
to take their own plan and, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I'd love to see the male-female breakout. I'll leave that alone. I won't press that.
And then, okay, so now we're going to pharmacy. Do you want to take it?
Sure. So this is kind of just a little more broad than the first page that we went over. So it has the cost trend that we kind of saw on the first page. Then it gets into the drug mix where generics are, you guys are doing phenomenal. School care is actually at a 91%, so you're like overall, so you're doing better than the overall pool. And then you got your preferred, your non-preferred brand drugs. The substitution rate for generics, that's kind of negligible in my opinion because it's over 95%. Utilization, you can see how many drugs were filled. You did have an increase on that, but it's probably on low dollars because of the generic dispensing rate. Then you got mail order, retail, and retail 90. Mail order is going to be lowest cost always for the plan and the member. I don't know why, but Cigna and Express Scripts combined can do a better job of negotiating because they're larger. Rite Aid, Walmart, they have big pools, but they usually pay more for the drugs from the same drug manufacturers. You could go to Walmart and pay $50 for a prescription and you get it home delivery and it's $30. It's just the way that they work.
I was wondering why I was getting emails about mail-in rather than,
Yeah.
you know,
Definitely.
last couple of months I've seen.
Especially if they see that somebody's on like any sort of
maintenance.
recurring maintenance medication,
Yeah.
and those are the perfect
Yeah.
ones for mail order. Yeah.
Like I'm on a blood pressure medication. I was doing 90-day retail,
Sure.
and then they told me how much I could save, and I was like, well, why don't I do that? So they swap you, or you have the choice to swap. And then the specialty, as you can see, this has the pharmacy, the medical broken out, the pharmacy plan spend as a total, and then specialty utilizers and specialty scripts per member per month. The one thing I'll say about specialty medications is we just put in a program as of July 1st called Save On. If you had heard about that, we talked about it at our annual meeting last year and slightly this year, but Save On is a program that is maximizing manufacturer coupons. So a lot of these manufacturers, they give discounted rates to the members, but the plan doesn't get any discounts. So they could get a card for, say, they pay $5 for this medication, even though it should cost them $500, because that's their kind of copay or co-insurance. Now, with Save On, there's a list of approximately 150 medications that fall under these groups. It's rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, psoriatic arthritis, kind of those big ticket items.
Umbrel, Humira,
Yeah.
those ones. Yeah.
And Cigna and Save On together maximize the program because they're getting the discounts from the manufacturer direct. Employees benefit because they paid nothing now out of pocket. It's a free medication. And we, as the plan, the school care plan, we're actually getting more rebates because of this. So it's lowering the plan cost as well as lowering the employees. It's a win-win on both sides. We need to make sure that everyone's in it. We have a small portion that falls under this. Again, it's approximately 250 people out of the 20,000, so I can't get the detail from who utilizes it here. However, we did or Save On did a big push during the summer to get people enrolled because they have to sign off and say, I want to be in this program. I think we only had a few people that were outside of that, so I'm not worried. But just if anyone like said anything or mentioned anything about high cost medications, they can always reach out to Save On and ask, does my drug fall under this program? If it does, great, I want to sign up. If they get a new medication prescribed to them during the year, they automatically get a call out. the doctor submitting the prescription automatically triggers a call out. So we should catch everyone. It was just kind of the people that were already on it for years that we're just making sure that everyone enrolls. But it is a good program, and it, like I said, it's a win-win for both sides. I think the rest is me.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions that we had back when Kirsty was here was mental health claims, behavioral health claims. So I went back to Cigna and I requested what I could get. Again, due to HIPAA, I can't get a lot of detail, but I got some more detail that was very informational. So just going from the left side, 1 in 4 adults have a behavioral health diagnosis or an issue. That can
Is this
be.
specific to us or to?
This is your claims.
Okay, thank
This
you.
is, yep, this is specific to Concord.
This is.
So, 38% of all members, and that includes
One of our biggest
spouses
cost
and
drivers.
dependents, have a behavioral health diagnosis. The top 3 were autism, reactive stress disorder, and anxiety. I'll get into more what reactive stress disorder is, because that, you're like, well, what falls under that? And I have a little more detail. One of the biggest things that I saw was PCP office visits are actually now diagnosing people and actually submitting a prescription for them without seeing a psychologist, counselor. They're just doing it on their behalf. I think it's because it's easier for people to talk to their PCP about their stuff going on, as well as there's not a lot of behavioral health counselors out there right now. There's a shortage. So that's where I think the PCP are kind of filling the gap. It is costing about 2 times more per person for a behavioral health member for your group. It can range from 3 to 6 times, but you guys are around two times per person. And then the last part on that, I can't really read. 72% of behavioral health members
It's
Oh,
comorbidities.
has comorbidity.
Yeah,
So
so
that
other-
includes high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anything. Thank you, Jack. Anything that kind of falls under a comorbidity would fall in that. So there is a higher rate of comorbidity in your group. And then on the right side, oh, thank you.
If that's bigger.
Yeah, on the right side, it just kind of talks about the programs that Cigna has. And I'm going to start, pharmacy management. They have pharmacists reviewing all the requests for new medications for people to make sure that they're the correct one for their diagnosis, as well as making sure that they're not abusing it. And that's where the narcotic therapy comes into. Narcotics are very strictly reviewed now because of the opioid pandemic that is still around. It's not really talked about as much, but it's still around. So the pharmacy team kind of manages that as the prescriptions come in. They're doing, prior authorizations for different types of narcotics. Then virtual care. So there is medical and behavioral health care options. We, through Cigna, use MD Live as our medical side, but MD Live also has a behavioral health side. So they have behavioral health counselors and therapists all around the country. They do have to be licensed in New Hampshire, but you could be talking to someone in Texas, California, and that is actually much lower cost than going in to see someone on a face-to-face basis.
Is it more available?
There is more availability.
There is, and so
Yeah.
aside from MD Live, there is multiple options. We have our EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program. That's free to use for everyone. There is Talkspace, which is, I don't know if you know Michael Phelps in the commercial that he talks about speaking with someone. Talkspace is a really large program now. That's free to use as well. Then there's a program called Ginger, Maru Health, Alma, Map Health, and Brightside. All of those are available to any member that's enrolled in our program. They would go through mycigna.com where they access all of their claims information, finding care and costs. And there's different levels. So like some of them cost $20, some of them cost $200. Just depends on what level you want to do. And they're, anxiety, depression. If you just want to talk to someone, I try to navigate people to EAP first, because EAP is no cost to them. And then they can figure out that counselor can say, all right, you need additional help. Let's connect you with this person, or let's connect you with this path. And that's kind of where the EAP comes into play as well. EAP is available for all members, anyone enrolled in the health plan, as well as anyone in their household, even if they're not enrolled in the health plan. So if you have a college-age kid that's off the health plan, but they're still living with them, they can access the EAP. It's free. If you have an elderly parent that lives with you, they can actually access the EAP as well. And the EAP is used for multiple things, relationships, counseling, stress management, financial, legal advice. All of these things are available for anyone to use.
I'm gonna tell you, as an employee for more than 25 years in this district, I never knew this. How are we getting this information out to the employees so that they are understanding that there are these things available to them at no cost that might help drive down the
Certain
claims?
things. Again, we try to do as much communication as
Do you ever come out and speak to groups of?
I would.
So I think one of the reasons we asked for a deeper dive into was the last presentation, mental health claims were a big driver of increased costs, but also I think we all know that in education there has been increased pressure and increased reports and people leaving the profession because of the stress, and wondering what we could better integrate into what we're doing as a district to support employees, to help them, to keep them, and to help our costs, but
Yeah.
primarily to keep them.
Keep, yeah, and to help them, yes.
So I don't know if during professional development or anything, if there's an opportunity to integrate some of
Monthly
this,
staff meetings, have
or
somebody come
integrate
in.
some of this information for employees.
So I have come out, we used to do open enrollment a lot in the district. We used to do one almost at every school.
Yeah.
And we would talk about EAP, we would talk about what other programs like Hinge Health or whatever was going on during that year. It kind of went back because of COVID, obviously. But I also remember coming to, it was early in the summer, professional days, when there was, I think it was at the high school, and I set up a table. And I was there to speak with anyone about whatever it was, claims, good for you, well-being program, EAP. They don't engage.
No, I'm thinking more you need a captive audience. You need like a
So
staff meeting.
let's talk
or-
about that.
Yeah.
We send out the thing for annual open enrollment. You've done these. They don't come because it's a very rich plan and there isn't much that's
Yeah,
paid
you would
toward
have to
it.
be
That's one.
at a teacher,
It would have to be,
a
yeah.
professional development day,
Correct.
The
where
I'm
you're,
thinking,
you're
yeah.
on at
Yeah, you have-
11
yeah, they're
before
not gonna-
lunch or whatever, and then, because if we do it, we go to all those and there'll be 3 people,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, literally,
So,
so.
what we
you
did
don't
one
see
year
enough people.
is one of our vendors gave us 2 Red Sox tickets. They gave them to me. I can't take them, but I can take them on behalf of the district. And you know what we did?
Raffled them
Everybody
off.
that came, I raffled them off. Highest number of people that came out for open enrollment.
I
I'm
don't,
not saying we buy Red Sox tickets, but I'm just
No,
saying.
no, and it's
We-
not, I just think that sometimes when you have the open enrollments, they'll come during your lunch period, your lunch break, and they're in the staff room with you, but that's your 20 minutes to catch your breath,
Yeah.
and you don't have the capacity to take in more information.
Sure.
And I think it's important that we offer just this
Right.
one page.
All these
That's just
programs,
this
right,
one
like,
page.
right, half hour
A
of
half
this, all your
hour
resources,
thing. This is
right,
what's
yeah.
available to you. This is
Yeah.
how you get in touch with
Well,
them.
And funded in your ESSER is your Stanford Student Wellness person, who will take, obviously for the minutes, because first thing tomorrow morning, we're gonna get pounded on is having the minutes for this meeting.
Right.
So we are not gonna capture all this.
Right.
But we'll ask one of the assistants to go back through and listen to this meeting, quantify it, and then we can start using our staff and wellness person, who will be in this
Absolutely. Who would
budget,
be
and who is a
fabulous.
one-year only, who will be coming up in the budget.
Yeah.
And try to have that encouragement, and we can talk about other ways to try to engage as it relates to that.
Especially those times when we have everybody together at once, which are very few times during the year.
Sure.
But you can do the kickoff at the beginning of the school year, where we used to do it at the Capitol Center, a half-hour presentation on this, but get people thinking before it's a problem.
But if we look on that left side of this, the 38%, and that's capturing all that, 72% have high rates of, they're engaging. I'm assuming when this is happening, school care is now reaching out because they're using the plan.
Well, they're engaging with Cigna, and
Right.
Cigna is making sure that they're getting the care that they need
Yep.
for
Right.
whatever their diagnosis is.
Yep.
So you're getting those people. It's the people, I think, that don't understand what an EAP is.
Or
What
how
is-
it could help them.
Yep.
And if you knew about it before the horse left the barn, you might
Well,
not lose the
and we'll
horse.
see on a future slide, 38% have a diagnosis, but the amount that are seeing a behavioral health clinician is only 16%.
Right.
So there's this massive gap. Now that may be because there literally aren't any more openings.
Correct.
But that still means that there's
Exactly.
So they're like the engagement in these programs can only help, right?
Right.
I mean, it certainly can't hurt.
I think Superintendent Murphy has been trying to say something.
Well, just this year, Michelle went out to every single building with her team of benefits.
It's great.
And to talk to the teachers. But again, you know, during their plan, I mean, she was there for several hours, so it was through a period of time. But
Not everybody at
she
once,
was
yeah.
disappointed. But I said that has to be repeated. So after the new year, Michelle and her team are going back out again. Now they've seen her again. So. But I also agree that a presentation at a faculty meeting does have some impact. It's got to be short.
This
It's got to
one
be
slide.
quick
Yep.
because they don't want a lot of time on it. So we're very careful. But I do think the faculty meetings are a good tool.
And it might be a faculty meeting, but, you know, as the new wellness, to think about, I don't want to call it self-care, but, you know, something in professional development to help
We talk
give
about,
tools.
we
Tools
talk
in your
about,
toolbox.
We talk about teachers' self-care all
Yeah.
the time.
Yep.
Because we know that you described it, Pam. The stresses
Yep.
and the anxieties that they have and the expectations to achieve
Yep.
has been high. It's been very high on them.
So is the new wellness person here or to be?
Here, hired.
Okay. So have they been trained on all the school care good for you?
Well, she works with our nurse, our head nurse, and the HR department. So the three of them are,
Like
they're all
combined.
brand new.
Okay, because
so
that would be a
we'll-
good.
But
yeah.
it might be a
For her
great
to know all
time for
those
you to go and
resources,
all
right,
read
and-
all three of them.
Right,
Yeah.
be armed with the
Well,
poster for this and that, and
And Michelle
you know,
came from Hooksett,
So
Yeah.
SAU 15,
Right.
and so they're with us as well. So she has I think a little
Yeah, she
understanding
does.
of
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
So, which is good. That's like a leg up.
And our school nurse would too.
Yeah.
But giving them the posters that they may not know are available
Yeah.
could be really helpful. Just
Yeah.
a
and,
thought.
And I didn't bring in any tonight.
I believe
but
those posters are in teachers' rooms.
They are, okay.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
double check, but
I just think
it's better to have a person
Saying-
post it, you know.
Yes.
over and over again to employees, I know you're stressed. I want you to know these resources are here. My job, we had a little insurrection at the U.S. Capitol last week, and a lot of my coworkers were, you know, directly affected. And to say to them over and over again, it's been a month, it's been 2 months, 3 months, just remember that these resources are here for you, because sometimes it's when you hear the message, too. You know, I think is important for people that it's not a one and done.
And I think saying it, you know, if you put up a poster that says employee assistance program, okay, what is that? I don't know. You know, tell them, hey, this offers these items, it's free. You know, this
Well, we
offers this opportunity, and you
Yeah.
can call it anytime, and it's free.
Right.
And
Well,
it'll
our
help you.
principals all have the materials, right? The the little cards and stuff.
Yep.
And so when they're meeting with teachers, and
They try.
especially their relationship is so much closer,
Right.
it's than say the central office. that they know that they reach out to staff and share that information, but I can't tell you how often that happens, so.
Sure. And their daily lives are.
And every new staff member gets a packet of information with all of that information in it, but, you know, like, that's a one-shot deal and you forget about it, so. We can do more work on that.
Not easy work,
Oh.
but
You can keep going.
You can, yep.
And, yeah,
So-
and some people are very private, and teachers tend to be very private individuals,
Well,
and,
and I was gonna say, it's hard to break the walls of behavioral health with people.
absolutely.
There is a stigma out there, and they don't wanna say that I need
That's right.
help.
That's right.
So, but it's hopefully breaking down a little more as time goes on. So this slide, it goes over it's kinda similar to the musculoskeletal one that we showed, with the top diagnostic categories. Autism is your number one cost driver right now. And I was like, you know, what's driving that? Is it ABA? Is it, you know, the new programs that are available out there? It's actually what I got a little more detail. Autism is the number one because of the frequency of how many visits someone uses. Most autistic children go to 3 therapies a week. So it's the amount that they're seeing providers, the amount that they're getting the care that they need, which is driving the cost. It's not that there's all these new programs available. I did get a little more detail. The past 2 years, autism has actually been your number one driver for behavioral health. School care overall, autism is not in our top 5. So I thought that was very interesting to kind of show there's a little more here, and I don't know, I can't contribute anything for you. However, it is not in the top 5 for prevalence in your district. So it is a cost driver, but the amount of it is not as high as other cases, as other, you know, like the reactive stress disorders, anxieties. This is cost spend, and the next slide I have will be more prevalence, and you can go to it, Jack, if you want. So on the right side, it's by prevalence, and as you can see, reactive stress disorder, anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, and bipolar is more known in the district, but it's not costing as much as autism. So autism is just, if you have it, you're going to have a lot more cost just because of the frequency people are using. To speak about reactive stress disorder, I did have kind of a definition of that and what kind of falls under that. It's a disorder caused by a particularly stressful event that was unexpected. I think we all think COVID was one of the number one drivers of that. But it's an acute program, or it's an acute situation, so it comes on quick, but it usually goes away quickly. There's no chronic, situations over time. But I think a lot more people have it happen, and that's why it's more prevalent, and that's why it's the top condition by prevalence. But it's not costing as much as, the autism side of things. Some other points that I looked up, the average age for your behavioral health claims is 34. So it is on the younger side. And the average age for employees as overall is 48. So I think it's more relevant to dependents. Your behavioral health side of things are driving the cost for anything under this heading.
So when you say dependents, are you talking about children or are you talking about spouses?
It could be both.
Well,
Okay.
but if you're thinking that
Or both,
autism is the
I
number one
Autism
driver,
is
and
the
that's
driver.
probably driven by kids, and
I
kids
would
are going
agree.
3 times a week, like,
Exactly.
that kind of.
It's definitely the
yeah.
children.
Right,
It's
but the reactive stress is.
could be
driven-
anyone.
Oh, for dependent, but it's somebody beyond the employee.
No. So the reactive
The
stress
average age
includes
for
everyone.
all our behavioral health claims is,
Yeah, but I just thought it was interesting that the average age for employees is 48, but the average age for behavioral health claims is 34. So that's really being driven down by those children, the children dependents. And then The other item that I saw was the behavioral health virtual visits were down. So those telehealth programs that I was talking about, people utilized them in the past year a lot, and they actually went down approximately 21%. So, I mean, I think that's just the nature of what's going on with COVID. People aren't staying home as much. But if we increase that, that could decrease costs because those are lower cost than going into a brick and mortar. The programs that are outlined here, the Happify and the iPrevail, those are programs, again, free to use for anyone that's enrolled in the health plan. One of them, Happify is a game-like program to help people with anxiety and depression. And then iPrevail is kind of, you get like quotes sent to you daily, trying to engage you in being a little more happy and prevailing over. It's something that they have.
Angry grumpy cat meme.
Yeah, the way that people utilize it, and you guys have a small amount utilizing it.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about the.
It's just small.
It's really small. Sorry.
Oh, is it down below?
It's in the slide, and it's like
I
the
see.
bottom left hand
Yeah.
slide
Oh,
of the
yeah,
slide.
Okay.
But it's just a couple different programs we get data on.
But this is member level data
Yep.
Yes,
for our members.
correct.
Yeah.
So then we should be able to get if we can get for this when we're talking about one person.
But this
We'll
is
Why
ask.
can't we get for
We'll
him?
ask.
we'll definitely ask,
We'll ask.
but this is more fun stuff, I would say. It's not the detail of the claims.
Wonder who that is. Jack, I told you not to call this. So
But so as you can see,
put on the, you don't
you
take
know,
the plan, do you?
employees
Do you take health insurance?
employees have less claims, and spouses and dependents have more claims. But the percent overall went up by 2% from previous 12 months to the most recent 12 months, 14 to 16%. So approximately 16% of the 1,300, 1,400 people are utilizing behavioral health in
But
some
it
way.
went down among our employees.
It went down among employees, but up for spouses and
They're
up
back
for
at work, they
dependents.
can't.
And again, I think it's the autism for the dependents that's really driving. So, I think that's it for this one. The next slide. So this one goes over clinical and member interactions, and clinical is it's when it gets a little more deep. You get so these are very small numbers if you look at it. Customer engagement only 9, healthcare provider engagement only 34. So this isn't all behavioral health claims. This is they're engaging in a longer term program or a longer term care need for their situation. So customer engagement is an employee or a dependent reaching out and starting the conversation, saying I need help, and they're getting that help. Now, healthcare provider engagement could be a mental health provider speaking with Cigna. It's just kind of behind the scenes, but they're engaging on the member's behalf, making sure that they get the care that they need. Access and crisis support. We see this a lot with EAP. Someone needs to talk to someone ASAP. They pick up the phone, they call the EAP, and they get the help that they need. And then customer advocacy is where case management comes into play. So if you're assigned a case manager for your situation, they're going to advocate for that person with a provider, with Cigna, making sure that they get the help that they need. So those are kind of the 4 main groups of interaction. And 16%, as we mentioned, had a claim with a behavioral health provider. The average age of employees with a claim was 45. But remember, the 34 that I used on the previous slide was everyone. So this is just driven by employees. Everyone's using in-network because it's an in-network plan. And then, again, we highlighted the virtual care utilization went down, and approximately 2.4% of the total population was engaged with a clinician. So, a lot of detail here, and I don't want to get lost in the numbers. Any questions on this stuff?
The only question I had is going back to this slide right here. It
Yep.
says norm. What is norm?
Norm, again, is the book of business for Cigna in schools, municipalities, and universities around the country, nationally. So that it's the best that they can compare our group, because we're such a specific, only public entities. They don't want to put us up against manufacturing. They don't want to
Right.
put us up against, hospitals. So
We can go to the last
I
one,
think the last one, yep.
which we already did talk about that point,
Yeah,
right? The difference
38%
between- yeah.
with a diagnosis, but that's from either a PCP or a behavioral health. And then 16% had a specific behavioral health claim. And we're just seeing an increase in primary care diagnosing people and actually submitting prescriptions for them, which is interesting to say the least. So, and then just the last overview of our Good for You Wellbeing program. This is the program that every employee and spouse enrolled in the program has access to. Employees can earn up to $800 a year, and spouses can earn up to $400 a year. And there is over $2,500 worth of programs that they can pick and choose what they want to do. So we're trying to, again, meet people where they are. We're not telling you you have to do X to get money. You can pick and choose the program. I did get some more details on the group overall. So total available to participate was 862 people, 544 employees, and 324 spouses. The total who participated last quarter, which was July 1st through 77 people, which is 69% of the total, which I thought was
It's a
pretty
lot,
good.
Yeah.
69% of the total, what?
Of
all
the
mem-
total available to participate, which is 862.
Oh, because you're counting spouses
Exactly.
and dependents. I got you.
So that's a extremely high number, honestly. We're school care, we're under 40%. I think we're around 37-38%. Employees, 91% of employees participated, earned some money.
Bless you.
19% of the spouses earn money. So that's where
Little opportunity
a little
there, yeah.
opportunity area. But they can do such things, the biometrics, they go to a Quest or a LabCorp, they get their blood work done, it automatically goes in through a claim, and they get $150 for doing that. It's automatic. Or they can go have, bless you, or they can go do their physical, and there's a lab form that their doctor can fill out. Case management, if you have a chronic condition and you want to manage all of that for yourself, you can hook up with a case manager and you can earn money for that. OMADA is a pre-diabetes prevention program. You do have to be eligible for the program to participate. There's like a questionnaire that they would fill out. It takes 5 minutes. And then if they do that, they can earn up to $350. Self-reported healthy events, they can do 3 per quarter for $75 per quarter, which is $300 total. These are things like if you go to the gym or if you eat healthy or anything like that, you just kind of enter those as you go. The self-reported mental well-being was just added this year because we do see an increase in the need for behavioral health. So we added that. That's $25 each, and you can do 3 of those per year. Apps and activities, this is, you can hook up a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, something like that, or you can do it manually every week. You can earn up to $400 in that program. Healthy pregnancy, healthy babies, again, you have to qualify for the program, and you have to enroll in either the first or second trimester. So not everyone would qualify for that. Online health coaching and telephonic health coaching, again, whatever works for you. The online, you go in daily, you complete some tasks, and then you can earn an incentive. The telephonic, there's multiple ones. You have a chronic condition, you have a goal that you want to meet, or if you meet a goal and you work with a coach, that's more subjective for the coach because they have to determine if you met the goal or if you are, making progress. That's available. And then preventive care. Preventive care is automatic. You go get your flu shot, it gets automatically processed through a claim, and you get your $75. Physical, mammograms, prostate exams, all of that is covered under those. And you can do 5 of those per year. So it's a pretty good, it's a robust program.
We thought we'd end on a positive.
Yeah. It's, you know, and again, we're doing our communications as much as we can without overloading people. You guys have very good participation, at least, you know, based on first quarter. But overall, school care really pushes the good for you because we have not a lot of participation in it. And we want to see that increase.
I think the other thing too, that we don't know, on their board of school care, there's 10 members. One of them is an NEA rep. We don't know what they're communicating as NEA to their people, which is half our staff.
That last slide
Yeah.
does get around. I have
Passed
seen
around.
something like that before, and they put it out as it's free money.
Yeah,
You just-
exactly. So,
Yeah, and if anyone asks, or you know, the new health person, we have a multitude of like resources on our website, and we have a health and wellness page just dedicated to the Good For You, and then we also have these really kind of funny videos. They're 5 minutes long, and we're trying to think of a way to get them shorter. Because we found out that 5 minutes is too long for people. They need 30 seconds. But the videos are up there anyway, and we go over Good For You. We go over how do you access it through the portal. We do a walkthrough of the mysigna.com website. How do you access this? How do you achieve this goal? And we, you know, it's myself, it's Jeff Kanarowski from the NEA, as well as Jana Dalton. We kind of switch off different categories in the program. And we also do other things like Hinge Health or, you know, other programs we're putting together, so.
Any of the board members have any questions?
Well, I was just gonna say, once again, I'd like to know more of the details in this. You're automatically enrolled in Good For You if you get a lab work done, did you just say?
You automatically,
Physician gives you lab work?
yeah, so if you go to a LabCorp or a
Right.
Quest, you get your blood work done, you automatically get the $150 as long as you completed your health assessment, which every employee should anyway for their money, for their HRA. However, that's where the spouses come into play.
That's where the key, I was gonna say, so, you know, I'm looking at, all right, how many of these are actually being taken advantage of? And where could we be getting more?
So if they go to the
information
Concord
out?
Hospital lab, where 90% of our employees probably have their providers,
Yep,
they wouldn't get the
it's
benefit.
not automatic. They would
They
have,
can apply for it still,
there's a
but they
form-
won't get it automatically.
correct, there's a form that
Okay.
they could bring to their, you know, physical. The doctor would just fill it out, sign off on it, and the doctor can submit it, the employee can submit it.
Okay.
And I believe when you go for just your general physical every year, and you've done the other.
Your blood work.
You get the physical one automatic, and there's nothing to fill out.
Correct. So all the preventive care, the physical, the flu shot, any of that, that's automatic. That's claim driven. There's a code that's submitted with that claim that automatically filters over to the wellness. But for the biometrics, the $150 incentive, you either go to a Quest or a LabCorp, or you do the physician lab form. Now, the big thing is, if you go to a Quest or LabCorp, you're paying way
And the
less.
plan is
paying
paying
less.
way
more.
less.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the savings to the plan and to Concord are huge.
It'd be great though
Much
if we
more.
knew where those were. You know, do we get that information out to employees where the Quest and the LabCorp facilities
Well, you
are?
have to
Because I
make-
wouldn't know where those
Many
are.
times now with Quest, at least when I've used it, you have to make an appointment, so you
Right.
can't
Yeah.
just,
You can't just walk
you
in.
can't walk in
Convenient MD
anymore.
does
yeah.
LabCorp, so it's
Yeah, so
great.
as soon as you
Yeah.
Google Quest, it comes up with all the labs in your area.
In your area.
That's what
Yeah.
But do we give
There's a lot around
employees incentives to use the lower cost labs?
Well, yeah, they'll get $150.
$150.
Well, no, but they'll get the
The
$150
plan
bucks.
doesn't steer to it.
No, they don't steer
It's
to
not
it.
a
That was my
steerage plan.
question.
That's what we were talking about last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And I think if they go to see a physician at Concord Hospital, they're gonna say, go to it.
Well, no, what they say is, they don't send you your orders, they
They
say,
send them.
they said that your orders have been sent to the
Right.
lab.
You
I
just
mean,
walk
some
in.
providers will ask now, because so many plans have the Quest or LabCorp that are free, they'll say, do you have a specific lab? Or they'll tape it to the wall, like,
Just let
if
us
you need
know.
Quest or LabCorp, let us know type thing, but, yeah.
Well, we
So
hope
now
this,
you know a
Well, that's
lot about the details of.
Thank you, we appreciate you coming back.
Very much is.
I think it's also important to note that this has not been something that's been static for the last 10, 15 years. Jim, you know, being on the board the last 8, Brenda as an employee, JW, PPO, gone, HMO, gone. We're now at this yellow plan and implementing the orange plan. One group has taken that on
So
fully.
yellow will eventually go and everybody will be.
You gotta
will-
negotiate it,
there'll
but
always
this
be
is how you
options.
control costs. I
Yeah.
mean, right
Yeah.
now, and I'm gonna take the HMO number and put our census in the HMO number and what those contributions
yeah,
used to be.
yeah.
Oh.
I have a feeling it's gonna be a couple $1 million.
Probably.
Where would be higher than we are today, without a doubt.
Easily.
But we've been very proactive in leading a lot
Absolutely.
of public school districts
Yes.
in doing this, because they say, what's Concord doing?
Jack is definitely proactive and definitely.
Oh, I
leads
remember
other
those
school
phone
districts.
conversations from
That
Denver,
is so
Colorado.
true.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
It-
so,
You know,
it's important.
a lot of it's a very rich plan, even though it's a consumer-driven plan. You go out in the private world, and I know teachers and staff don't want to hear this, but they go into the private world, they're having $5,000 deductibles, single deductibles. They compare with an HSA, but that's still a lot of money on an
The average in
individual.
New Hampshire is 3,000.
Is it 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Per
Yeah,
person or per plan or
What's that?
per person?
For a single.
For a
That's the
single,
average
wow.
deductible for a single.
Well, this isn't considered a high deductible plan
No.
anymore.
This is not.
Yeah.
No.
The orange is.
Or, yes,
The orange
absolutely,
is, but
yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm always for saving money and doing things, but I think one of the key things is that we're getting more and more people to realize that preventative care and wellness totally increases their quality of life and their ability to live longer, more productive lives. And that's, we don't want any of our staff or teachers getting sick. We want them, living well into their retirement, and that's where a lot of these items, that's why I have so many questions about it, a lot of preventative cares and the incentive programs, and do they know that they can get these things, because, it's win-win, it saves money, but it also really improves their lives.
Quality of life.
Well,
Yeah.
And I'll say to that point, so we usually do a wellness kind of push normally in December. Last year we did it in January. We did it for 4 weeks. This year we're doing it again in January, and we have a whole week dedicated to preventive care because we see the value, and we've had a decline in the use of it, in the utilization. So we're like, we have to. Hinge Health. We have another week in behavioral health. So we see the trends, and we try to nip them as much as we can with different programs, but it does take a little engagement on the participant side. So
Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, thank you.
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Given the time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.